All right, everybody, we are back with another episode of Inside the Big Ring, and we have a very special guest. Oh, 70.3 St. George overall age group women's champion, Kinley Bollinger. Was that good? Did I,
Oh, that was great. That
that was
was great.
appropriate? Okay, so how are you doing?
I'm doing good today. It's sunny outside. It's going to be hot here, and I'm ready to get some good sessions in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So have you trained it at all today, or is everything ahead of you?
no, everything's ahead of me. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
waiting for waiting for it to warm up a bit actually because it's still chilly outside in the mornings here. So,
How cold? How cold is it?
it's like in the 50s right now, but it's not too bad, but I'm waiting for it to get just a bit warmer so I don't have to wear anything else on the bike.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
50, it was 55 this morning, and yeah, Wisconsin's even been in this weird of 80s, 50s, 80, 50s. So, but then this week we're gonna get some good weather.
Okay.
Yeah. So you won St. George, which feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
And this podcast was meant to be recorded like 3 weeks ago, and then I kept delaying it because of Unbound and just whatever. And you were so dedicated to staying on this path. And I'm like, okay, sweet. We still get to record this because I mean, you won almost essentially like the hardest 70.3 that there is out there. And you did it very impressively. So, um, I want to hear about your background a little bit. So, how long have you been in endurance sports? Uh, you ran a great Boston also
Oh,
this year. I
yeah.
mean, Boston's freaking hard. So maybe that segues into like how good you are and how strong you are. You went sub 3 there, which is incredible. But yeah, like let's go down like the background. So do you have an endurance background?
No. Um, yeah, that's the main answer to that. I did a bunch of sports when I was growing up. I dabbled in everything like everyone does. My main sports ended up being figure skating and softball. So I don't know how triathlon came out of that. But basically during the pandemic, I got really bored, as many of us probably did, and I started running just to do something. My mom was always a runner when I was growing up, so I was used to that. She unfortunately can't anymore because of the back injury, but I always saw that in my childhood. And so I just started to go outside and run, get some fresh air. We're talking about like a mile and all that. Um, but I liked the feeling of it. I liked the feeling of gaining fitness, being fit, and it kind of just snowballed from there. And then I did my first race, and I'm kind of go big or go home. So it was a trail race. It was 16 miles. I did it and won. So I was like, oh, okay, there's something here, maybe.
So
Uh, yeah.
from step one in COVID, how long it was this like how long like how many weeks or months or was the trail run?
Uh, it was probably a year later.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
I wasn't too outrageous, but yeah, I should have not done that.
If
But
you would have told me 6 weeks after running and you win a trail run, I'm like, what is going on here?
yeah, no.
Crazy. Yeah.
Oh, it was actually okay, but I didn't have any idea what I was doing, right? No coach or yeah, none of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I just ran a lot and hoped for the best and got injured along the way. And which leads me to then I joined cross country in high school my senior year. So COVID was my junior year. So yeah, that's kind of how the it worked out. My senior year of high school, I joined cross country. We won state here, which in Wyoming, I mean, state Wyoming is not a huge deal, but it was super cool for us. And um, yeah, I really enjoyed that. I found myself not liking the shorter distance with the 5K. I was always the girl on the long run on the weekends. I was like, we need to go further. And everyone else in my group was like, you're crazy, which I knew. But from there, I got hurt a lot
Hmm.
in cross.
Like what kind of
And
injuries did you get?
um, random Achilles stuff that I still don't know what it was. Shin splints that were probably stress reactions, everything foot related. I never got an actual stress fracture that was diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I probably had one and ran on it anyway. Um, it was not good. I wasn't feeling well. I've kind of had in the past, I've had a history with an eating disorder. So that
Hmm.
was definitely part of it. So with that, I was cross training a ton. I was at a rec center on our indoor spin bikes and just doing hours and hours on those. And one of the days at the rec center, I saw a flyer for an indoor sprint triathlon they were going to have. And I was like, man, I can run. Well, I couldn't at the time, but I knew by that time I would hopefully be running. I can bike. And what's one more sport to add? I've never swam. So let's do this. Oh, that was a mistake that I thought it was going to be so easy. Um, so yeah, I tried to swim and I couldn't make it halfway across the pool. Um, it was a learning experience. The first try was really rough. I made it through, but was like, this may not be for me. In fact, my mom told me to quit. She said, you can't swim. Just do
So
outline.
is it like a 400-yard swim in the pool and you're
It
just
was
like,
500, but
oh,
yeah, it was, yeah.
oh, geez. Do you have any idea how long it took you to swim that 500? Like, do you have any memory? Like 10
Gosh,
minutes, 20 minutes? I mean, was
I
there a
don't
time
have
limit? Was there a cutoff time for you where you're like, you need to get this? Yeah.
I don't have any memory, but it was probably yeah between 10 and 20, probably leaning more towards the 20.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So
Yeah.
one of those things. But
That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah. Cool.
and then it's just grown from there. I mean, after that, I'm so stubborn. I was like, no, I'm doing this, and yeah. So now here we are.
I love that. I mean, I think that's awesome. I mean, coming from like no background whatsoever, but just having like that internal drive, like
Yeah.
of always using failure as like another motivator instead of using
Mhm.
failure as this, well, I'm not good enough kind of thing to, no, I'm really good. Like there's like this self-belief or like there's like just this innate work ethic of that. And yeah, endurance
Mhm.
sports is definitely for you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So, okay, so moving forward to last year,
Mhm.
you did Arizona, Ironman Arizona.
Yes.
How did that
I
go?
did. Oh
Good.
man, it was really great up until the run. Um, my swim was all right. I was pretty slow and the water was super cold, but I just got out and was like, hey, let's get going on the bike. I had the fastest bike split of the day, so that was super promising. And then out on the run, I couldn't hold any nutrition,
Mm.
and so yeah, I was having frequent bathroom stops within the first 3 miles. Yep, many times. And so uh, my coach, my boyfriend, same guy, saw me on course and said, okay, so either you're going to bonk and just trudge this thing in, which is actually going to be faster than you stopping like every quarter mile, um, or we're gonna try the stopping every quarter mile. So I was trying every type of nutrition possible. I couldn't even hold down water. So for like 20 out of the 26 miles, I had nothing to eat or drink or anything. And I came in as a zombie. But
So
rest of
I want people to understand this. So you swam 116, okay,
yeah,
which is a very respectable swim. Like
thank you.
yeah, like, and then you biked 502. So or five, yeah, 502, which is a very, very fast bike split. And then your marathon, which you're sounding like it was going to be like a 10-hour marathon, was 340.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing. So you went 10:07,
Yeah.
third
So
overall.
yeah, I mean I was very happy with it.
Yeah.
You know.
So, so I'm curious. So you finish a race like that. You obviously qualify for the Kona World Championships this year, and you're third overall. I mean, you're only 18 minutes behind the overall winner. Like, what do you take away from a race like that? Like, you finish it, and I mean, like, what does it take away from a race like that?
Takeaway was there is loads of improvement to be had, but this is not out of reach.
Hmm.
I didn't
What is an out of reach? What does that mean?
I didn't ever really know if Kona was in the cards or if I could possibly go pro at some point. That's always been in the back of my mind. Um, but being on the podium at my first Ironman and knowing that the day did not go well in my eyes meant that there is a lot of opportunity here. Yeah, I and like you said, I don't know what would have been out of reach because I'm stubborn enough that nearly anything isn't. I don't think so, but it was really just a good starting block, I would say, for what is now become a main focus. Because right last year, triathlon was obviously a huge part of my life, but it wasn't as much of a focus as it is now. So, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so like when you take that race and you obviously go into Kona and and then you move into this year. So, we mentioned Boston, but like I mean obviously Kona's probably, I would imagine, the main goal, but it's okay to have many main
Yeah.
goals of it. But like how did you structure
Yeah.
this year in terms of what races are you doing this year? Because you did Boston, you did St. George. I mean, so what is the rest of your season look like? But also, like, did you have key races in your mind, thinking these are my big target ones and these are my training ones? I mean, how did you structure your season for 2025?
Right. So coming up, I have an Olympic in Loveland, Colorado, lake to lake, and there I'm racing the elite field. You don't have to have a pro card or anything for that, but and then I have a 70.3 in July, the beginning of July at Echo Reservoir in Utah, and then I'm doing 70.3 Boise, and then the big one is going to be Kona in October. Um, Basically, the structure of my season was my coach and I, my boyfriend, we kind of sat down and we're like, okay, what are going to be the A races? We knew Kona was in the cards. I mean, you make that deposit and you're like, I better go. And then from there, it was just kind of trying to spread out some A races. So having them not too close together, knowing that I wanted to do St. George because it was going to be the last year. I qualified for Boston and I wanted to go sub 3. So that was an A race. And then Boise actually just came on the schedule not too long ago, after St. George, because I said I had too much fun there and I need to do another one. So that's how it goes. It was a lot of these, basically 3 main A races and then filling in the middle with whatever worked with my schedule and then family time still in the summer and the logistics of me being a student. So it's a bunch of things coming together.
Yeah. So let's talk off-season training. I mean, because a lot happens in the off-season. So you finish
For sure.
Arizona in November, and then you start this build toward Boston and St. George, like this first block of
Yeah.
racing.
Yeah.
So one, I mean, how did the running go into Boston, right? You ran sub 3 on a very hard course. And I mean, yeah, so like how did the run training go? Did you get injured? Did you have good run block? I mean, how did all that go?
I had an incredible run block. I don't think I've ever had anything like that. I didn't get injured. I was so thankful for that. And I just saw huge progress in my ability in the long runs I had to just hold paces that I never thought were even possible. They gave me a lot of confidence for sure. And I really enjoyed the run block, which was huge because sometimes it can get monotonous. I mean, anything can. That's why I'm multi-sport, not one sport. But yeah, it was really incredible. And I was able to get outside for a lot of it, which is surprising in our winters here. But we didn't have a ton of snow until later in the winter. So, some of my early miles were still outside, albeit cold, but we got outside. So lots
Yeah.
of treadmill miles. But yeah.
So so the run block into Boston. So like I guess how many miles like kind of like were you averaging for that? And did you change around like reducing swimming or biking, or did you hold it steady? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm also curious, like like you're talking about these long runs. I mean, like what kind of long runs were you doing? Like hilly pacing, like all that kind of stuff. There's like three questions in there.
Right. So, going into Boston, I don't hold run mileage very well. I do get injured pretty quickly. So I was averaging mid 30s probably for run, 30-ish miles. And then I touched 40 a couple times per
Hmm.
week. That was it with a, up to 20-mile long run on the weekend. So there's not much left to work with there. Um, the other disciplines were just kind of kept at a base level. We took them down a bit just to reduce overall training load and fatigue. But I wanted to keep up with the swim, keep touches with the water. So maybe the volume would be a little bit down, but the frequency would stay the same. Biking was just a little bit down in intensity and volume to allow the legs to recover for the runs. And then the long runs, a lot of the key sessions were just long tempos. 3 by 5 miles, that kind of thing. I hit my marathon goal pace in the craziest workout I did probably was just like half marathon at marathon goal pace, and then some warm up and cool down.
Yeah.
That scared me going into it because I was like, this is not gonna happen, but it did close to it at least. And so
So you had to have held sub 7 pace for that 13 mile because you
yeah,
ran like 6:40s or 6:45s or something like that for Boston.
yeah, it was barely under sub 7, but yeah, I did. And it was very confidence inducing because I wasn't in carbon shoes. I didn't have the
Uh,
race day hype, all that stuff. So I was like, this is promising. So
just you and your boyfriend out there doing a big long tempo of 13 miles. And yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I tried to do it on some hilly terrain. We have enough of that around here, but Boston is net downhill still, even with the hills. So I don't know. It worked out with doing some hills and some flat for those long runs. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So and then swimming, right? So we could say that swimming is of the three the not as great of
Oh, for
of
sure.
what yeah, yeah. So like what were you doing in the winter to address swimming?
It was really a lot of technique based sessions. Thankfully, I was able to have my boyfriend on deck a lot of the time to help with the technique because I do 90% of my training alone. So it's hard when you're not a swimmer to know what to work on. And then, like I said, just frequency in the water. 4 to 5 days a week, touching the water at least. And then we did a lot of speed development sessions. So sprinting sessions, I would do like one a week.
Hmm.
And then we've kept kind of the same structure even throughout the season, in that I always have a long swim, like I'd have a long run or a long bike. And that's not necessarily about long intervals. Sometimes it is, but just a long time in the water to just get used to it. And then fatigue resistance, trying to hold form, when you're 5,000 yards into a workout, that kind of thing. So it's, yeah, basically a sprint session and then a long session and then whatever in the middle.
Yeah. So I saw on Instagram that you posted, and I forget of when you did that. You swam a 100 TT 100 yard
Yeah, yard.
okay, at a 110
Yeah,
PR.
yeah.
So what would your 100 PR have been? I don't know, like last October.
Sorry, you kind of cut out a little bit. What did
Like it, so like what would your 100-yard swim PR been a couple months before Arizona? I guess I'm wondering like how much
Oh, okay.
improvement have you seen in like 8 months or 6 months of all that swimming?
Right. Right before Arizona, I think I was barely trying to hit under 120.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so I think I hit a 119 and I was over the moon. And
Mm.
so yeah, which is cool to say now because the workout I did yesterday, I mean, I was holding 125s easy for, 300 to 500 yards. So we're getting we're getting there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like absolutely, right? I mean, I think that's a pretty amazing. I mean, and you think of like 110 and I mean that's for somebody who where you were to where you are now, like that's great development, for like a non-swimmer. And I think like sometimes it's
Yeah,
hard for non-swimmers to really maybe identify, and I'm not projecting this on you at all. Like I think like I see this a lot where but you see this where like say you swim a 110, like wow, that's a PR, it's amazing. But then there's like a comparison syndrome to what other like really great swimmers do.
for sure.
And you're like, well, 110 sucks. I'm like, no, but it doesn't suck. Like it's like really great for like where you are. And so, and you can kind of like I like that. And I do think like swimming, like knowing what your 50 max is, your 100 max is, and like you have to be able to swim fast, like really fast, to then swim moderate fast, right?
Exactly.
Like, and so I love that. Like I think that's great. And that's cool. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
yeah. I,
how many yards would you like again, like this is like there's no perfect, but like from like how many yards do you think you average commonly in the water a week? A week.
commonly, I would say 15,000 yards a week. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it could go up to 20 plus, and some weeks, especially with travel, dipping down to 10 to 12. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you're something like 3 to 4,000 ish. Well, I guess you have that big set, which yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 3 to 4,000 usually. And then it depends on how long the long set is that week. I might have some 2,500 in there too, but yeah,
Yeah. And do you like swimming?
I do now. Um, I didn't at the beginning for sure. And then going into this year, it was the weirdest thing in the off season. I had Arizona, then I swam, start of the off season, everything was going okay. And then I just had this lull where I couldn't hit anything. I couldn't hit any paces. I don't know what was going on. Like the other two sports were fine. So I don't know if my body was just having a reset or what, but it was the most frustrating thing. And then going into the season, I was worried about that because I was like, what, you know, I went backwards in the swimming for sure. And then one day it just clicked again, and it was like this huge jump, which I've heard some people say like you can feel really bad and then just have this huge jump, and that happened to me. But during that time, going to the pool was like pulling teeth. It was awful. But now I'm back to liking it again.
Yeah. Did you ever figure out what it was?
Not really, no.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't know.
maybe it was just fatigue, I don't know. I mean,
It definitely could have been. And I was under a lot of stress from school too. So that could have been. And, swimming uses so much more mental energy than biking and running. So for sure. I don't know.
yeah. Do you ever find yourself swimming, right? Because like as a development swimmer, that you think too much all the time, like there's too much thinking and not enough swimming. Or do you ever find
Mm-hmm.
yourself in that where, yeah, like it's a frustrating place to be where like you're just trying to develop and you're overthinking things too much and sometimes you just gotta like just chill the F out and just enjoy
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've
Yeah.
been there a lot. It's like, okay, high elbow, this, that, finish the stroke, this, that. And you're like, by the time you get through one stroke, you've thought about
Yeah.
10 million things.
And then you get to the wall
Yeah,
and you're
I,
like
I think
you're
that was
no
part of it too.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, what? And then you see a swimmer next to you and they're just gliding. You're like, I want to be you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
I re
anyway.
This was like probably 10, 15 years ago. I was living in Racine and there's a really great pool, the Recplex, and there's a good triathlon over there and they have a really good master's program. And I was like swimming
Okay.
not with the masters, but I was swimming and there was a guy, okay, anybody can judge me when I say this, but like I was swimming and I was like swimming okay, like 115, 120 pace. And this guy was just
Yeah.
freaking motoring past me all the time, just like kicking the crap out of me. But he had a massive belly. Like it's almost like humongous belly. And I'm like, I felt like I was in shape. And this guy's ripping like
Yeah.
1 minute per hundreds. And I'm like, this
Yeah.
guy must be a swimmer and he looks so easy doing it. And I'm like working so
Yeah.
hard. I'm like, yeah, like that's the reality that if you know how to move water and you're good at it, like, yeah, it's like swimmers, but swimmers, yeah, either way. So won't get into that. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then what about biking, right? I mean, was biking easier for you to pick up? I mean, did you just kind of like get on it, start riding it, and have like a 300 watt FTP? I mean, like how was like your that was a joke, by the way. I have no idea. But how was biking development for you?
Um, it was pretty good at the beginning. Those beginning stages were great. I've always biked with my family, just mountain bikes, camping, and for fun. But to bike competitively in the beginning, I had very fast, a very fast progression because I think just the way I'm built, my musculature, I've always had big quads and just that muscle down there to push power.
Yeah.
Um, but then once again, there was this lull at the beginning of last season because I don't know, I just wasn't progressing, all this stuff, and eventually I kind of worked it out again. And then I saw huge breakthroughs in numbers, in comfortability on the bike, and handling the bike, actually becoming more like a cyclist instead of just a triathlete sitting on a bike.
Yeah.
um, and from there, it's progressed pretty well. I mean, I just see this slow progression. There's been nothing crazy, but it's just one of those things I don't even realize that I'm pushing numbers that I would have really hoped for last year are coming easy now. So yeah, it's been pretty smooth.
Yeah. And yeah, yeah. So and then like what kind of work? I mean, so like again, like kind of going in this off season. I mean, did you look at the off season training and think for this period of time from January or February to St. George? I mean, like what kind of like workouts were you doing during that time? And also like what kind of hours do you kind of ride on the bike per week?
Yeah, so during the off season, it was really a lot of strength development. We wanted to, set myself up for a, a strong season in which I knew I'd be racing a lot, not being able to focus on the strength sessions as much. That's another huge part of my training is strength. So I spent a lot of time in the weight room, not as much time on the bike as I am now. So I was probably around 10 hours on the bike in the off season, 9 to 10. And now I'm 12 plus most weeks. So that's changed a little bit, but the main sessions in the off season were very high end VO2, um, pushing big power for short amount of time, just raising the ceiling
Mhm.
basically. I have an innate ability to have one speed. I can just hold that forever. In biking and running and swimming, it seems like my highest high is relatively low to everyone else, but I can hold very close to that for a long amount of time. So we were trying to spread that out a little bit and raise that ceiling.
Yeah. So
So
like
yeah,
were you doing like Tabata
30,
stuff?
that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah, like 30/30s. Did you ever do
Yeah.
like longer VO2 max or did you always kind of stick to like 30/30, 30/15s, 40/20s kind of thing?
No, I did some session I'm going to do today, actually, 2 minuters, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
up to 3 minutes, and then, yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do
So,
you like those? I mean, do you like those? I mean, did you hate those and like now do you like them? Or like where do you for somebody who's like a diesel athlete from what it sounds like, do you just love that kind of discomfort or you're like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to do that. But you have
depends
to.
on the day, I guess. um, yeah, I don't know. I feel very accomplished after those sessions. I I like the progress that I see from them, but getting into the right mindset to do them correctly is difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people will do those any time of the day versus like
Yeah,
doing, like a long tempo kind of a thing,
for
Just like,
sure. For
yeah.
sure.
And so you also mentioned like the weight room. You said the winter was very strength oriented. And I do love how you
Yeah.
correlate strength with VO2 max because it is very strength oriented. But then you said you also into the gym. So like what kind of things were you doing in the gym?
The off season, I was heavy lifting,
Ooh.
heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, all that. I really love lifting. It's been kind of a hallmark of my training since I started out in sport in general. Um, and I didn't have anything to train for on the horizon super close. It just seemed like the right thing to do. And it's, as far as I can tell right now, it's helped a ton in injury prevention, and I'm knocking on all the wood I can find. And just allowing me to, I think, kind of tap into muscle fibers I didn't know existed when I was in I mean, the soreness from the weight room, you find those muscle fibers, but also just firing those and waking them up and then firing them again in other sessions. So, yeah, I was doing heavy stuff. It wasn't any light volume. It was, yeah,
Yeah.
heavy reps.
And so how many days a week were you in the weight room doing like heavy leg lifting?
Um, Probably two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so like just squatting, deadlifting, like trap bar, that kind of stuff. Like what kind of like lifts were you doing?
Yeah. So regular squats, trap bar, deadlifts mostly. I find them I find I can engage the muscles better with that. And then, upper body too, tons of that for swimming and, bench press, that kind of the main lifts. Um, that I feel I don't do as much in the season. I don't heavy lift in the season.
Hmm.
Um, because of all the races and then the sessions that I need to get done. I just can't be that fatigued, but I miss out on those main lifts in the season because I'm doing more accessory movements. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And then like how would you like where would you put those heavy days like within the schedule? Like how did you know? Because everybody's different with when they lift, right?
yeah,
But like did you have a certain day where like I'm doing these workouts, I'm going to lift this day? I mean, like how did you structure? Because heavy lifting can be fatiguing, but so you kind of have to
yeah.
place it in the right time. So when did you do those in the week?
Yeah, they were mostly after a harder VO2 session. So say I would do a VO2 session on the bike in the morning and then lift in the afternoon. So it was very hard on the legs, very fatiguing, but I'm able to bounce back from that kind of stuff pretty quickly. And that way my sessions weren't compromised. So my main sport was still at the forefront. And then the following day I could focus on recovery. So I wasn't just, blasting my legs every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Can I ask like how much you back squat?
Oh gosh, what would it be?
I don't know.
You don't know? Um, oh,
I'm
I
just
don't
so
even my PR was. I could find it on
Oh,
Instagram,
it's
but
okay. Yeah, that's okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just like intrigued because I love lifting. I think lifting, obviously for endurance athletes is like phenomenal. But I don't know, like there's a certain like level of satisfaction from just like going to the gym, like when you can do it and just like lifting heavy. I don't know. I think that it just, yeah, I think it's, well, it obviously is very healthy. So yeah, cool.
yeah. No, it's helped a ton, and I really think that's a great way to start off the season is have that base.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So going into, see, let's just say you run Boston, you crush it, sub 3 hours, and then now it's all basically eyes on St. George. So I guess what were like some key sessions you were doing leading into St. George, like specific prep?
I didn't really have very much specific prep for St. George because Boston was the focus. So I had Boston and then about 2 weeks of specific prep for
Okay,
this.
okay, okay. Well, yeah, like sorry, maybe yeah. Like what were some specific things you were doing into the race in general? Yeah. So
Right. No, I gotcha. Um, yeah, so we took those on the bike. We took those really short VO2 sessions, lengthened them out a bit, um, and focused on the long ride with long uh, kind of tempo efforts, I guess, again, threshold efforts, and a lot of climbing.
mm,
Um, we have a canyon close to us that's called Bighorn Canyon, and it mirrors St. George super well because it's even when it's cold outside, it just seems to be an oven there. So it was perfect because I would just go out there, do a long ride, and go up there's no flat part in that canyon. So go uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill, just in the heat. And so that felt like St. George. But really just focusing on pushing on the climbs, but also pushing on the descents.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I was, once again, a beginner cyclist trying to figure out how to not be scared out of my mind on descents. So that really helped a lot. Staying aero and just pushing power wherever I could on course. So that was on the bike. On the run, some of the main sessions, well, were mostly Boston prep sessions. But then off of that, I did weekly track sessions. And I think those helped a lot with just turnover, raising that top end speed again. And, those would be some faster stuff, some 400s and 800s, but mostly mile repeats, 2 mile repeats, that kind of thing. And then in the swim, I don't know. I think the key session really is for me right now still that long swim in the week, because it's mentally taxing, it's physically taxing, but it gives me a lot of confidence to know that I can still hold form under fatigue. So,
Yeah.
And that might be something like, we might do 500 repeats or some ladders, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down and up, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And so, when you're kind of like looking at St. George, I mean, I don't know how to ask this, but I mean, I'll just ask it. Like, did you go into St. George knowing you had a shot to win the whole thing?
I guess in the back of my mind, I knew probably. My boyfriend definitely knew, and he had seen it in training. He wasn't going to tell me too much, I don't think. I mean, um, I don't know. It seemed like it was a possibility, but in my mind, it was a very slim possibility.
Yeah.
So,
So it wasn't like you were overly thinking about, okay, the goal is to win this thing. I mean, so when you go into a race like that, which is a very competitive race, I mean, like, I guess like the week of the race? I mean, like, what are you thinking about? I mean, like, I guess, like, what is the process for you race week into a big 70.3? I mean, how are you processing the race? How are you planning for the race in terms of how to do it? I mean, how are you managing the whole race week?
yeah. So race week for me that week it was really relaxed, and that was great because we actually went down and saw family in Salt Lake before heading to St. George. So that kind of took my mind off of it, and I perform best when my mind is not on the race. But then heading into it, it was just execute best swim, bike, run. And I mean, everyone says that, but I very much just don't think of it as a triathlon.
Hmm.
Think of it as focus on the swim, then the bike, then the run. And your best is all you can do. So as long as you do that, that's all you can give. I think that in every race, when I'm in the middle of it, what's the story you want to tell afterwards? When it's hurting, do you want to just give up or do you want to push through? And just enjoy it because, man, we never know what's going to happen in life. So take every opportunity and run with it. So I really focused on that, making sure to keep everything fun lately, and it's helped a ton. So
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so okay, more on that later. But so I'm curious with race week training. I mean, how much do you train
right.
race week? Because I mean, it sounds like you're a pretty high volume, 10 plus hours a week, 30-ish miles a week. I mean, and I mean, it sounds like it's like with that volume, like how much do you train race week?
Race week was pretty low this time. I mean, in general, I think with the race, did 13 hours that week, which for me is pretty low. I mean, I'm averaging 20 plus a week. So, and all of it was super easy with some, you
Hmm.
know, just get it going sessions in there. We were traveling a lot too, so that helped. I'm terrible at tapering, so that helped just mentally. I had to taper. Yeah, it was really pretty light.
So I just want to clarify. So it was 13 hours of training and then the race, or 13 hours total with
No,
the race.
including the
Yeah.
race.
Okay.
So, and
Oh, so you reduced it quite a bit. Yeah, that was a pretty big, yeah, big
yeah,
taper. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, so then the race itself, how did it go? I mean, we know how it went overall. But
yeah,
like how did the race go, swim, bike, and run?
yeah. So, rookie mistake the morning of. I ate breakfast and then I didn't bring anything else to transition to eat because there's so many things to think about. So before the swim, I'm starting there like I'm actually hungry before the swim, which is not a great place to be before a try. So that's the first memory I have really of it. But then, race nerves, whatever, you don't care once the gun goes off. So the gun went off and I don't know. I found myself just in a washing machine per usual, water everywhere, getting kicked, the typical thing. But I was feeling strong on the swim. I felt like I could actually pull water,
Hmm.
which sounds like it should be something you do all the time, but especially in open water, I've always had an issue with that. So I was really happy with that. I didn't think I was going fast because it seems whenever I come out of open water in a race, I'm really disappointed in the time. And I'm like, what happened? But I just kept on the pace, kept on focusing on technique and not just flailing. And I got out of the swim and was very happy to hear my time. Um, so that was good. What did I swim? 34,
32:51. 32:51.
32:51.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, I said 34 because that's where we thought I was going to be. So yeah, I was very happy with that. Ran through transition like crazy, got to transition, couldn't take off my wetsuit, couldn't get my visor on correctly. I need to work on those, let's say. But yeah, I got out on the bike, was feeling pretty good, took a gel immediately because I was still hungry. Um, and got going. I had this piece of tape that had gotten stuck on my bike somehow. And so I heard it on my wheel every time. I was like, what is going on? And so I thought there was something wrong with my bike. So I did the little out and back at the beginning and started the first climb. And up that first climb, I actually pulled over and stopped
Hmm.
to take this off my. Thankfully, it was just a piece of tape. So got that off, but had to get going again. And in my mind, I was just, let's hammer this bike, you know. So I was hammering the uphills and then the downhills, I would run out of gears. It's just fine. I was already going 40 plus miles an hour, but I was like, come on.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, it went really well though. I've heard so much about Snow Canyon. I've been to St. George a couple times before, but not anything for cycling. And so I didn't know how I was going to do going up that. Um, the canyon was over way before I thought it was going to be. Like we got to the turn where you go back into town, and I thought we were only halfway. So that was a fun surprise. But I was just picking off people. I didn't know where I was at all. Um, I was kind of in this group of guys the whole time. We yo-yoed a lot, and I don't know. I felt really good on the bike.
Yeah.
I didn't start to feel hot at all, which was good because that changed on the run. But yeah.
Yeah.
And coming into town, I was just zooming, and my boyfriend was on the side, and he said, "You're 4 minutes down." And there's this picture of me, and I looked so mad, and I'm pretty sure that's from when it was taken. So it's like, oh gosh, I have to run really fast now. So yeah, but
Yeah.
then I got into transition, and that transition went better after I found my spot on the bike rack because I couldn't find that. And then I ran out of transition with one of the guys I had been with on the bike the whole time. And so that was kind of fun because we were in it together, and we talked a bit. And then I went up the first big climb, and the legs were feeling okay. I wasn't very happy with the feeling there, but we all know coming off the bike, it always feels bad, but I just thought I would have a little bit more in them. But then once I got on diagonal, it was great. I felt great. I felt like I had enough energy. I was cooling well, thanks to all the kids with the squirt guns. Um, the part out past the little bridge and underpass. I don't know if anyone's run it, they will know what I mean. You get this nice cool underpass, and then you have to get back out in the heat. That part was rough, but then we got to go on the golf course, which I enjoyed. Um, and then, so coming back around on the first lap, I saw my boyfriend again, and I had put time into the first place woman,
Hmm.
and I was about 2 minutes back at that point. So I'm like doing the math. I'm like, I was four, now I'm two, and we're halfway through. What's going to happen, right? But on that first lap, I had a really fun time because I got to run with Jackie Herring as she was going into the finish chute. And I was like, yeah, because I'm all about the pros.
Yeah.
And it was so cool to see them all week.
Yeah.
So that gave me a boost. And in my typical fashion, I always feel better the longer the workout is. So after the second half of the half marathon, I was ready to go and just pushed it. And with about 2 miles to go,
Yeah.
I was what 15 seconds back or something like that. And so my boyfriend just said, just go, like rip it.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it. And so I did. I didn't blow up. I got to near the end, and he said, "You won. Enjoy it." And so I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 7 miles, because you came off the bike, I think fourth, and then
Yeah.
seven miles you were in third, a minute from the lead. 8 miles you were in second with 54 seconds to the lead. 10.5 miles you were still in second with 28 seconds to go. I mean, it was like down to the wire.
It was.
11.4. Yeah, you were 3 seconds to go with a mile and a half to go. I mean, that's epic. I mean, that's pretty cool to have that thing come
Yeah.
down. Uh, yeah, yeah, that was amazing. I mean, to come off the bike fourth, and it looks like a lot of the ladies rode around the same time, like 2:36 on that course, and yeah, and you won by 26 seconds. I mean, 1:31 run. Second place female was 1:36. So yeah, I mean, you were strong, which yeah, yeah, that was awesome. And it was so hot. It was so hot that day. It was incredible.
Yeah. It was very warm, but like I said, all the kids with the squirt guns truly were the heroes of the day because
Yeah.
man, they did amazing work.
Yeah. So I'm curious, right? So you win the race, and I mean, anytime you win an overall women's race, it's huge. And
Yeah.
and so now I'm curious to know mentally, does it change you at all? Has it been challenging to think now it's about winning? Now it's about
Yeah.
going to these races and winning, and not winning is a disappointment. I mean, I'm just curious, is like, you win once, you want that taste again. And like, how do you balance the development versus, trying to, I mean, obviously do the best that you can at every race.
Yeah. I think it would be ignorant of me to say it doesn't change me. Um, I try not to let it because having that newbie mindset that who knows what's going to happen, this is just for fun, has served me well time and time again. And so I'm still just trying to hang on to that as long as possible. But it is in the back of my mind now. I know I've done it in a competitive field. I know I've won overall on a hard course. And so I know what is inside of me. It's just if it comes out on the day with other courses. But
Yeah.
mentality is 90% of this sport. So I'm still hanging on to the fact that I'm a rookie and just here for fun.
Yeah. I mean, because it just like everything you're doing up to this race was, training, exploring the limits, becoming better, and
Yeah,
that's huge. But then all of a sudden you come out of it, and if all of a sudden every workout is very comparison style of like wanting to win, the fun is just like going to be sucked from it all, And that's hard,
exactly.
right? I mean, and that makes you respect. I mean, it really does make you respect like top level pros, like a Taylor or Cat Matthews, who
Hmm.
who really are like at the top of the sport, and how
Yeah,
they manage that expectation, but also the enjoyment of the sport. I mean, it's truly not talked about enough of like managing that high level expectation, but not burning yourself out. I mean,
Yeah.
Like you look at like Taylor this year, and she's like having an okay start, which is different for her. And some of it, like you have to respect that. She's been doing the sport since she's been like 13, right? And she's
Yeah.
allowed to have lull moments, but she's winning. She's always winning. And that's, man, I cannot imagine the pressure or holding that kind of pressure of that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So,
No, I hugely respect those girls because yeah, just my tiny little taste of it, which is not, you know, but gosh, yeah. There's just so much pressure out there. And then with social media and being able to see what everyone else in the world is doing, oh, it can get hard, but
yeah. So 3 years from now, where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself in the sport?
that's a good question. I have absolutely no clue because I will be in medical school. I mean, hopefully, if everything
Yeah.
goes planned. I don't know what that's going to look like. Obviously, Matthew Marquardt does it well, but I'm not him. I don't know if I have the same gusto that he does. So we'll see.
It sounds like you do. It sounds like
Okay,
you
well,
do.
thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I would like to be pro working on just moving up those ranks. But if that doesn't happen, that's all right too. Um, Lord willing, I'm still in the sport just in general, so that would be great. I mean, really, we never know what life's going to throw at us. So I'm just thankful for every day I get to do it.